Hello, everyone, and welcome to our fourth webinar in the Chrome Management Series. Thank you again for joining us. If you've been with us for the first three, I hope you've enjoyed all of them so far. As a reminder, we have all the recordings posted on the Cloudbakers event page on the website, so feel free to watch any of the recordings whenever you want, as a little reminder. And then also for today's webinar, if you do want to ask questions, as long as you're signed into a Google Plus account, feel free to ask questions in the panel and we will answer those after the presentation. All right, we'll hop over to the slideshow. So again, we are discussing today how to solve the Microsoft problem. I'm Ashley Kelnoffer. I head up the sales and marketing side of the company. We also have Tristan Dobbs and Jason Butler here. They are both on the Google deployment side of the team, and so they have lots of knowledge to share with us, as always. And so today the agenda is going to be as follows. We're going to take a look at some signage that I'm sure you've seen before, maybe not the best kind, but we'll kind of go through those different issues. We're also going to talk about connecting with VPN, using virtualization, and managing Internet Explorer. So at this time, I'm going to pass it off to Jason. So Jason, take it away.
Well, thank you, Ashley. And like Ashley said, I'm Jason Butler, and this is Tristan. Probably sick of us by now, but we'll power through this one. And just to get everybody started here, at some point in all of our work lives, I'm sure we've all had a tool that we were expected to use at some point that is specific to our company, that somebody at this company made, probably say, let's 1995 or so, and we're still using it now in 2016. It probably runs on maybe Internet Explorer 4 or 5 if we're lucky. And a lot of these traditional tools built on these legacy systems are still kept around because of the price to upgrade them is too much for a company, or for whatever reason all the other systems would need to be upgraded as well in conjunction with this. So there's a bunch of different reasons that could cause people to keep using these tools from back in the olden days when we were maybe teenagers. But worse than being forced to use a tool that's 20 years old is that sometimes our customers might see these tools as well, or customers might see what's behind the curtain of everything, and honestly, it is embarrassing to see that kind of stuff. So
yeah, it's fine if you force your users to use something from '91, but when your customers see it,
yeah. Like, oh, if you're doing this, what's everything else like behind your company? So yeah, there's definitely a lot of reasons to upgrade, and we're going to go through today to show you that you don't necessarily have to upgrade to do this stuff, but there are workarounds using Chrome. So if you want to get started in talking about some of these.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked a lot about signage, in the past. We had a whole signage webinar. We've got one coming up, and that's honestly one of the coolest use cases of Chrome. You have the ability to configure and push out digital signage. We talked about it last time, but real quick, let's talk about some of those older systems, right? Especially if you rolled out digital signage in the past, in sort of what was maybe the early days of digital signage. Maybe you were kind of looking forward, trying to be on the bleeding edge, and that's great. But you've definitely then seen, what can happen when things go wrong, right? You get the blue screen of death. So when we talk about signage, like right there, right, the blue screen of death, we've got legacy signage running on the big billboard there, and everybody knows, that basically, it failed on you. And the worst part is here that system's totally locked out. There's no access. Somebody has to go over there, pick up the computer and kick it a few times to get it running. So signs are very public. So when this happens, it can be pretty humiliating. They're meant for high visibility. Otherwise, what's the point, right? That's what a sign is. I may have mentioned this before, but I used to work for a theater chain right here in Illinois, and we used digital signage. We had these screens in all the lobbies that used to play trailers of upcoming movies, and it would play slides of upcoming coupons and events that were at the theater. Kind of, hey, have your birthday party here, and hey, here's the new Captain America movie. It was great, or it was supposed to be great. All it did was play video and slide some little pictures back and forth. But just about once a week, we'd end up having to go out there, either reattach a cable, unplug it, plug it back in, configure network access again, upgrade the software that was running. It was a pretty painful process. And the worst thing was too, it ran all the time. There was no, you couldn't set a downtime. You couldn't configure anything. You basically just bought the solution, put it in, and hoped it worked. So I probably spent 4 hours every couple weeks. Like 8 hours a month, just going out somewhere, opening up this big old cabinet, taking out what was just a Windows machine, and tinkering around with it until I thought maybe this is maybe how it works. Because the other thing was it was provided by another company. I put it back in there and then just cross my fingers for the next couple weeks. So when you walk by this machine and it's frozen on a trailer and it says critical error, right in front of the video you're supposed to be seeing, it gets pretty either distracting, it's embarrassing. It kind of ruined the entire purpose of having it there. It was just basically then playing audio. It was just loud box in the middle of the lobby that everyone kind of wondered why it was there, and why we were bothering them with it. So you don't want to be those people that bother people with your loud box. You want you want your Chrome signage to just work, right? So a lot of these, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but because they're built on a Windows platform, there's a lot of extra stuff that gets installed. With Chrome signage, you're running exactly what you need to, nothing else in the background. You can deploy it, centrally manage it, and reboot it if, in the worst case, you have to reboot it. It's one click and you're done. You don't have to drive out 2 hours to a theater in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm sure like some of those systems too, they were small boxes, but even if it's just Windows on it, Windows has a bunch of other stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be running one program, but who knows what else is running in the background eating up.
And if somebody didn't set it up properly, and then you're walking by one day and you see Windows updates are available, it's basically because it's just running somebody. If you didn't run that application, you'd just be running someone's computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's what a lot of people might say with Chrome, is that it's a light option of an OS and it's just a browser OS. But in this instance, it's absolutely ideal for that because you're not running all this extra junk in the background. You've just got your app running. That's it. You're just playing your slideshow or your videos or whatever from there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind, is that compared to Windows and Chrome, like obviously Windows you can do pretty much anything in the world. Chrome, you can still do that without the heavy stuff weighing you down. So yeah, Chrome definitely solves that in simplifying it, and it's a reliable package too for all of that stuff. So even if stuff does go down, like before, you would have to go into the cabinet and do all that stuff. Here, we can obviously do it remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Which we've shown everybody how you can activate all the stuff remotely. You can get diagnostics information. So everything is in one central manageable location. It doesn't even have to be at your movie theater or anywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, I think, what plays into a lot of what we want to talk about today is all the remote stuff you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can always configure things on the Chromebooks themselves and the Chrome devices themselves, but doing all that remote stuff, whether it's you've got remote workers or you're just trying to troubleshoot something or update something, it's all pretty easy. We showed how you can jump into the admin panel and do anything you want. Saving you the trip out, to mess with somebody's Windows instance. So speaking of remote, what's the one thing that comes to mind right now when we talk about using Windows in a remote fashion? It's virtualization. It's kind of the hot word, or it was a little while ago, and especially like Jason talked about, when we have legacy applications that are require an old version of Internet Explorer, and yes, we're aware it's unsafe, but unfortunately the vendor that provided this EMR system or something like that hasn't updated it, and so it's got to run this old web view, and we can't therefore move off of Windows. Now you can, right? You just set that application up in, say, a Citrix environment or a virtualized machine somewhere, and your users can get all the benefits of Chrome devices. They can use a modern browser. Even beyond Chrome devices, they can just start using Chrome again. Something that's fast and speedy and up to web standards and safe. And then while they're using that, they can jump into a virtualized instance of a Windows server, pull up the AMR, use it when they have to, and then close it back down. So Virtualization, you can use it for desktops and apps, on their own. It eliminates expensive and out-of-date hardware. It eliminates having to manage all those Windows instances or Mac instances and of full computers that you're setting up just for people to access a server that you've set up for them to pull in. So we've seen a lot of people go the way of Chromebooks just by virtualizing the one thing that they needed to their users to access, and then giving them Chromebooks.
Yeah. Ashley wants to switch over quickly here to the Chromebook. We can see that we do have the Citrix receiver already pulled up there. So yeah, so you see we have the Citrix receiver app here. We've pushed it out to everybody. We can pin it to our taskbar here. So if we just open that up, we just need to enter the URL specifically for our company or the server that we're trying to access. Enter that in, connect, enter our login information, we're good to go. So it's super simple to get it there. And you can keep it open too. You just shrink it down. It's always there waiting for you to access it. So you don't have to worry about logging in every 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, we've seen people roll it. I mean, it's super easy. You push that app out to your users. They open it up, and in the first step, you just tell them put in apps.cloudbakers.com or something, right? I type that in. I'm therefore redirected to the right server. I use my network credentials, which are synced with my Google credentials, so no passwords to remember. Log in, and I've got options. I can open up my EMR system. I can open up let's say a full version of an older version of Adobe or something like that, and work on the server. And then when I click, I don't even have to log out anymore. Just click the X. I'm done. And I can go back to using my Chromebook for all the good stuff. All of the apps that we pushed out before to those users. Adobe Creative Cloud, for the newer versions of things. And all the normal features that they're kind of used to getting up to going and speedily using, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that this solves a big problem, which is no, we can't move because we have these old apps. Well, now you can, just virtualize that and move on from there. No sense in holding your users back because a vendor hasn't updated their software in a while. And then from there, I mean, maybe it's time to reevaluate the apps you're using and get something a little more modern.
Yeah, definitely.
But this makes it easy at least.
This bridges the gap between that time.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk a little bit more. We showed the Citrix receiver, which if you have a Citrix environment, you're well aware of, how to use it, how your users are used to it connecting. And once they've logged in, the experience is exactly the same. But we're also going to talk a little bit, about the VPN piece later. So, Citrix has a ton of products that integrate really well with Chromebooks. They're a big Google partner, so that they're also dedicated to solving this problem. So, like we said, when you virtualize and go Citrix, you've got that receiver, but we've also got a way to use Google Compute Engine, right? Virtualizing servers in the cloud, not just with Citrix and one vendor, but you can use really set up anything you want in Google Cloud Platform. And Jason will jump in on the Chromebook and show us how to connect there.
Yep, definitely. So right next to our Citrix receiver here, we have our option for Chrome Remote Desktop. So you can see here you can enter the IP address of the server that you need to connect to. Super easy. You already have that handy. And you just hit connect. And then it'll ask you for your username and then your password. So just paste that in there. Hopefully that's right.
What a password.
That is not right.
Yeah, everyone quick break into Jason's account. Yeah, that looks a little more manageable.
Yeah.
There we go.
So yeah, so now you can see we're into our instance here on our Google Compute Engine, so we're all set to go here. Yeah, full desktop environment. It's a virtualized server. It's what your users are used to using. But there's this Chrome app that just makes it real simple. You can pre-provide the IP address or the host name that you have set up for that server, and they already know credentials, right? And this is really good for deploying one instance of something really easily, but Google Compute will allow you to deploy instantly scalable instances of really anything you want, right? Windows, Linux, just keep anything set up in the cloud that you need access to that you don't want running on a Chromebook or maybe like a cloud server application that you jump into.
those are all easy to set up with cloud compute.
This isn't just for cloud compute either. You can, if you have an AWS instance, you can connect with this app as well. So you can. It's not just for Google instances.
That's very true, right? Yeah, any any server that you can get to by an IP username and password, you can get in with Chrome RDP. And there are, plenty of other vendors and virtualization companies often have their own Chrome apps, right? Chrome apps are a way to set it up with Chromebooks. I mean, it's fully supported in a lot of different environments, so there's plenty of support. And kind of speaking to that, we can jump into the other aspect of kind of removing or rolling out Chromebooks into a legacy environment, which is VPN, right? Mm-hmm. VPN's another area where there's a ton of vendor support. Chromebooks were built obviously on the idea of security. If you have a VPN, whether we're in the middle of moving to the cloud and using all the benefits of cloud security, or we rather just have people dial into the VPN in order to come from the same network, or we're managing access from one network location, you may have one set up. You may want to set one up. Chromebooks work with all of them. You can do L2TP over IPsec. You can do OpenVPN. Citrix, and Cisco have their own VPN software and apps that get rolled out, so you can push those out to users and make it really easy. So we're going to jump into the Chromebook and show you basically a few of the options for setting it up. One of them is built in with the Chromebook. The other one you can just push out via app, and it basically looks like it's built into the Chromebook for your users. And then we'll also show you how to kind of push this out from the central console as well. So let's say use case right now is I have one Chromebook and I want to test the VPN, or nobody needs it except this one user to access a network file share server or something like that. So I'll go into the Chromebook settings. So let's jump in there now, and I'll let Jason drive. Jason is going to open up on the Chromebook our settings. So click on the little portrait, go ahead and click on settings. And then we've got a few options right at the top for internet connection. We've got Ethernet plugged in right now. Then obviously some Chromebooks have 4G and Wi-Fi is available on everything, right? But we also have private network. So if Jason, click on that. And we've got a few options. Now, this is also available to just click and connect, right? So when I want to connect to my VPN, I can just click on my portrait and connect right away. But we've got two options, right? OpenVPN or L2TP is available right away. And I can also disconnect. It looks like Jason's connected right now. Mm-hmm. So I've got this, we'll say, was pushed out. It's easy to set up. So go ahead and click off that, and let's add a connection. When that comes up, we can add Wi-Fi, right? So something you can also, if you remember from last week, set up via the central panel. We can add a Cisco connection, or we're going to add right now an OpenVPN or L2TP. And we get some options here. Server host name, service name. We can give it a friendly name for users like Homebase or something like that. A pre-shared key, username and password, everything that you're expecting, whether it's L2TP, IPsec, or you can change the provider type to OpenVPN as well. So this is, if you wanted to specify on this one Chromebook, a VPN to connect to. So go ahead and cancel out of that. We can set it up here. We can connect to it. Let's jump over to the admin panel. Jason is again, I'm going to let him drive again. Jason's right here in the device management panel, which you probably remember from, I think, our second week when we went through all the options here. If you click on network, we have the ability to specify not only Wi-Fi information, but VPN. We kind of glossed over this before, but this is by far the easiest way to deploy a VPN that I've ever seen, ever. Right? So it looks like it disappeared a little bit. Yeah. So basically, this is our central VPN section. We can actually push out Pulse Secure. So you'll notice that some of these things get thrown out there because they're strong partners with Google. If you use Pulse for your VPN service, you can easily push that out to your users. Or we can push out, our OpenVPN or L2TP. And again, same options right here. Name, the host, pre-share key, username and password, all of this stuff. And when I configure this, I apply it to the right OU, and all of those Chromebooks are now able to connect with the VPN. So this is a great way of, I mean, this saves you from having to have people line up to get connected, or having to go to everyone's desk and set them up properly, or remote in and get the stuff configured properly. Everybody can use their own username and password and things like that, but this is a great way of managing all that.
And if something changes too, it's obviously a lot quicker to change stuff.
Yeah. It's easy to, if we're going to change the Wi-Fi information in our building or the VPN access, we want to protect against maybe we were breached or something like that, and our VPN wasn't as secure as we thought. We can upgrade that, push that out, and then remove the old one, as we roll out the service. Really easy, or at least easier. I mean, dealing with a breach is never easy. It's really easy to kind of swap it out so that your users don't know, that anything's changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's definitely strong. Pushing it out and keeping it out of sight, out of mind.
You can keep users out of super technical things. It's always best for everyone involved.
Yeah, the less questions, the better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's another version, or there's another way to access remote desktops as well, right?
Yep. So if Ashley comes back over here to our Chromebook, there's a Chrome remote desktop application. So you can see here, this is great if, say, you need to get access to somebody's Chromebook for do some basic help desk stuff, or they're not at the same location as you. As long as you both have this same app installed, which obviously you would if you pushed it out to everyone, you can get direct access to whoever's computer. And the person that's the help desk person can drive, so they can do whatever they need to do, and the person can just sit there and watch. They don't have to be involved at all. You can also set up to access, say, your own personal computer. So if I left my computer here at work, but I remembered to install this Chrome remote desktop months ago, as long as my computer's on or has power, I can connect to it and get access to my own device. So if we come over here, you can see my computer is currently hooked up here. So if I connect to that, you obviously set up a PIN number, just so security. You don't want anybody to have access to your computer. Mm-hmm. So I just enter my PIN here. And if I connect, and you can see, boom, I'm open up here into my other work desktop. You can see it's creating an endless image here, but you can see how easy it is. So you can see I'm controlling my personal computer from the Chromebook with just this one little simple app. So it's super easy to use. You just obviously need to take foresight to set it up beforehand at least once, and then you should be all good to go.
Yeah, I mean, foresight, sure. You might as well just install it on everything.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is, you can install it on, Windows PC, Mac, your MacBook Pro or whatever,
yeah.
Any Mac, but also on other Chromebooks, which is, I think, helpful. If you've got a Chrome box at your desk at work, but you carry a Chromebook around, obviously, number one benefit, everything's in the cloud. So I can use Chromebooks for everything, and everything's exactly the same, no matter which machine I'm using. But if I wanted to remote into my Chrome box here, I could do that really easily. And the other thing too is that there's a PIN on that machine, but it's all protected by your Google account credentials. Nobody can just log in and type in the PIN for Jason's machine. You'd have to have access to his account,
yep.
Which Jason's got a strong password, he's got two-step verification, and he's got me shaking my fist at him, making sure that everything's secure as can be. So yeah, this is all protected by from an account level. But then the PIN on top of that, just because it's machine access.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot to point that out, that it is by account level. So if you saw that on the application, it does say my name and username in the upper right hand corner. So.
Yeah, and I think this is my favorite for for desktop support. If you work in IT, if you worked at a help desk at all, instead of running some of those heavier duty screen sharing applications or trying to walk them through setup, just have them open the app on the whether you're on a Chromebook or they are, have them open the app. They can click that Get Help, and they'll have a little pin, and they can just give that to you for you to connect for remote desktop services.
I know Google themselves use this, and I know that we've used this here when customers call us for support, that we ask them to install this, we get the PIN number, and we're in the computer.
Yeah. That's sort of why we push it out to everybody here at Cloud Bakers. Again, this is an app you can install.
Mm-hmm.
So back to, we covered virtualization, which is great, kind of keeping your legacy apps alive while you move on to bigger and better things. We talked about VPN, which is keeping connected to your network, even if you're not using a traditional system. We're using Chromebooks, so lighter, faster, more secure, and with that security, we're getting VPN access using all types of different ways. But what happens when you've got some application that, like we talked about in the beginning, that needs Internet Explorer, right? Well, not that there's anything wrong with it, but a lot of older versions of Internet Explorer are much less secure than newer versions of Internet Explorer and Chrome for sure. So we're going to see those every once in a while pop up. You access a web page that says, please access this in IE, or you have an EMR system that runs through the web browser, but it needs to use these old versions of the Internet Explorer webhooks and things like that. So we found one, online that basically, when you try to access it from a Chromebook, or from a Chrome or modern browser, it says no, you shouldn't do that. So let's go back to Jason on the Chromebook. And now keep in mind, this message that you're about to see pops up for everything outside of Internet Explorer 6. But we go to this website, and it says Internet Explorer is required for this application. Please reopen in IE. And even if you ignored this, the whole thing would just ruin your experience, right? It's not going to let you go any further. They've done a pop-up here to kind of just say you need to use an older version of IE. But then even on that page, down at the bottom left, like, required resolution is really low. It says something about Internet Explorer 6 Internet Explorer 6 is the required version. So we don't want to be living in the past, just to use whatever app this is, the Internet Traffic Monitoring System. So you can still run what we call IE tab, which is an easy way for us to open up the same web page using an Internet Explorer emulated tab. Number one is Jason can open up our virtualization and open up that same page and not have to see our that crazy message, right? So if you still have the password in your clipboard, awesome. So Jason pulled it up earlier, but go ahead and click on that. So this is the way it's meant to look. It looks very similar, but not from here on out. This is going to work, right? So I already have a virtualized way of doing it, but there are plenty of other extensions that allow you to open this link in, this one's called IE tab, for instance, that emulates an Internet Explorer tab inside Chrome. You'd never have to leave the experience of Chrome, but it's going to pull up that website in a way that you kind of expect it to look and trick the website into thinking you're using an older version. So I think that's what, it's a pretty strong extension. And then also, aside from Chrome devices, there's Google actually made something called legacy browser support. Which is, let's say we have our EMR. I keep going back to EMR because they're all sort of still living in IE. Let's say we have our EMR system and we need Internet Explorer for it. And Internet Explorer is on everyone's machine, and we're using the Chrome browser for everything else because it's the best browser for Gmail and Drive and things like that. Legacy browser support basically allows IT to specify a site or an application where if I click on a link to that or I go to open that application, it opens it up in Internet Explorer. Separate window, launches in Internet Explorer so that you have full compatibility. Nothing looks different. It's not trying to fit into a newer browser. You can use the application, but everything else it's going to open up in Chrome. Chrome is still your default browser. So again, all the benefits that come with it.
Yeah.
It's a good way of marrying the two, and at least until such a time where you don't have to use legacy browser support, where you don't have to set up a virtualized instance, just to access your current applications. But again, a lot of this was solving the problem of what are the few things that are holding you back from going full cloud or using light, fast, secure Chromebooks instead of buying old, clunky, hard to manage Windows or Mac machines. I clearly am very biased, but I guarantee you that comes from actual user experience. As much as we administrate and help people do this on a day-to-day basis, we use Chromebooks every day. We have several machines lying around here. We mentioned it before. Mitch, our founder and CEO, uses a Chromebook on a daily basis. for his day-to-day tasks. They have them on touch screens and like really super awesome, great looking brushed metal, amazing enterprise machines, all the way down to very cheap, easily replaceable kind of plastic, the kind that you're okay with your dog dragging all over the house because it's durable.
Not recommended.
Not recommended. But if your dog wants to use a computer, this is a perfect computer for them. Yeah, from CEO to dog. So I think that covers most of what we wanted to talk about. If anyone has any questions, let her rip. The silence is comforting. I'm glad that we seem to have hit everything and answered all the questions on our way through.
Well, if you haven't gotten the chance to ask a question in the panel, but you maybe have one pop up later, feel free to email the address we give you at the end of every webinar, chrome@cloudbakers.com. If you send an email to that address, I will see it, Jason will see it, Tristan will see it, so you'll for sure get an answer. Guys, thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us, and thank you to all the viewers who have watched this. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.